Hey guys, Coach Keating here with Cam, and Cam has decided that we should start doing these sessions in an accent. So Cam's going to give her best accent.
I can do an Australian accent, but only if I say one sentence. Here it goes. Crikey! the shrimp on the barbie is only $9.99.
I love it, love it. I have no accent for you guys. All right, so this session is to answer two questions for you guys. Number one is training on your own right for you if you have not done it yet? And the second is how to get more out of it if you are already in one of our programs. So we have several programs that are independent training programs. You're totally on your own. And we have team-based programs. We'll cover both of those. I do want to tell you, though, to start, that the best players in the world, the best players in the country, the best players in your state, the best players in your club all do training on their own. They all do it. It's just how people get better outside of the 3.2 million players in America that are registered in youth soccer from 9,000 clubs. They all train about the same. They train 2 to 3 times on average a week, and they have 1 to 2 games on the weekend. It's what they do. It's what kids do outside of that traditional training that makes the difference. And that's what this session is all about. I do want to tell you, my goal is to help you guys absolutely have an extraordinary journey so that you absolutely love it. And I want to tell you a quick quote. My favorite quote, we just finished up our 1v1 bash, which we do every January. And we had about 140, 150 players in from around the country. Farthest traveled was California. We're in North Carolina. Farthest traveled was California, but it's throughout the West, throughout the Midwest, South, and Southwest. And my favorite quote was from a 9-year-old. He was telling his mom on the way home after she picked him up after school one day, and he was totally quiet, kind of contemplating, head down, couldn't figure out what to say. And then all of a sudden he blurts out, "I wish there was a bash. I wish there was a bash times 100. So Kellen, if you're listening, I was thrilled to get that quote. I want to reach every player like that. I want you guys to all reach you in your heart to inspire you to go for it. Okay. So if you have not seen the videos, I posted a couple of videos, and you'll see on the chat next to this video, you're going to see the ability for you guys to ask questions. Start asking questions right away. I have somebody here that's going to make sure that we get to them all. But they're in there right up at the top of that chat box is 2 videos. One is on the 4 stages of development, and they're just short little clips, about 30 seconds each on stage 1, 2, 3, 4. Everybody wants to be a stage 4 player. Everybody wants to start at the epic striking, goal finishing, all the big crowds screaming and yelling at them and just can't, all the applause. But you have to start with the fundamentals to get there. That is a key message. That's secret number 1 for you guys. Master the fundamentals. Master the fundamentals first. The second video is how do pros use video? So I've got a little in there from Steph Curry. I've got a little in there from Messi. I've got a little in there from a player that I train in the MLS by the name of Brant Bronico. Some of you guys have heard from him. And then I have some video in there from Cam in learning arguably the most difficult skill in soccer. Watch those 2 videos. It will help you kind of understand that process. All right. So I do want to tell you that I absolutely believe that everybody who is watching hasn't even touched their potential yet. And I want you to look right at me in the eye here, because I want you to realize that what you are capable of is so much more. And you could be a national team player. You could be a rec player. But in every case, there's so much more that you are capable if you do 2 things. The first is you got to believe. You have to believe in yourself, in your heart, that I am absolutely capable if I do number 2. Number 2 is if I'm willing to work hard to get what's important to me. So I really want you guys to get those 2 messages. All right. So I would like Cam. So Cam, the South African, South Australian. What's your Australian? So Cam has an interesting story. I want to share my screen with you guys, and we'll walk through while she's talking about her story a few pictures. So Cam, start talking about you started soccer as a U12 challenge player. So that's kind of late. Most kids start soccer. Most of you guys that are watching, tell me, post when you started watching soccer. Just a few of you post when you started playing soccer. And usually it's pretty young, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. So Cam started at U12. So tell us about your story a little bit.
Yeah, so when I was younger, I started off as a gymnast. I was not the best gymnast, and I didn't like it very much. I was like, might as well give soccer a try, right? My dad likes soccer. I'll just try it. Well, little did I know that I was going to fall in love with the game so completely after just a couple years of training. And that's the number one thing that I really wanted to talk about first was I didn't really like it at first. When I first started training, because I wasn't good. I mean, who likes doing stuff that you're not good at, right? Like anybody who starts a new hobby, whether it's like cooking or a sport or even a subject in school that you're not very good at, who likes doing something when it's hard? But lucky for me, I had my parents. They both encouraged me to keep training and told me that, look, if you put in the time, we'll help you. But if you ultimately put in the time, you're going to get better and it's going to become fun. And they were right. So as I started building the habits of training on my own, it became so fun that I didn't need somebody there with me anymore. So I'd say about the time I was 13 or 14, kind of getting into high school was when I first started training completely on my own and loving it so much that I never got enough of it. And I would say...
Hold on one second. I'm trying to get you guys to see some of these pictures. Okay, here we are. Now you should. I'm hoping you guys can see this. Yeah, it's okay. There, you should be able to see photos of Cam when she was a head shorter. See if is it showing up yet?
Yeah, it's showing up now.
Okay, great. All right. So you should be able to see a photo of Cam playing. This was probably U13, but as a U12 player, very small compared, a late bloomer compared to everybody else.
Yeah, and I would say a lot of people think about being small or slower or weaker as a disadvantage. I don't think anybody, myself included, would say, I'd rather be less fast. I'd rather be shorter. But in my case, and in anyone's case really, is you can use those weaknesses to your advantage, actually, if you allow yourself to make up for them in other ways. So what I did was I put in a bunch of time with the ball on my own. That was how I made up for my height and my speed. And then as I started growing, as I started getting more athletic, that only added to my ability as a player. But aside from that, I'd say there were probably two huge things in my technical development growing up that made the biggest difference. First of all, and I preach this to all the kids that I train, left and right feet. I don't know if you know this, but humans have 2 feet. So a lot of soccer players think that it's okay to only train with their dominant foot. And if they know it's not okay, they do it anyway just because it's easier, right? It feels more comfortable to use whatever foot is your dominant foot. But what you need to do is train with both. You'll always be a stronger player if you train with both.
Let me give you a tip on following up on Cam's comment there. Secret number 2 is to try to find a personal training space. Cameron and her younger sister carved out a place in our basement, just cleared it out, bought $4 worth of chalk, and wrote Trick Factory on the wall. And that's where she trains most of the time on her own. And so does my other daughter who plays tennis, trains tennis down there as well. So a wonderful secret for you guys. Talk a little bit about when you started getting invitations to, so U12 you started as a U12 challenge player, and then you started getting invitations to PDP events and then overseas events.
Yeah, so about the time I was a sophomore and a junior in high school, I started getting invited to events overseas with the Irish national team. That's this picture, the youth national team, and then also national team events in the U.S. as well as like player development program that is sponsored through ECNL, and then some regional events for ODP.
Let me throw something out here. The reason I'm showing you this picture is we're traveling and Cam takes a ball with her everywhere she goes. It's super important for you guys to make it convenient. So that last picture was in Ireland. This is either Ireland or Scotland. This one is definitely Scotland. You can see in the background that Scotland is on the building there. So you can take the ball with you everywhere. That's secret number 3, is make sure you make it convenient. I don't want you to totally disrupt your vacations, but find time to train. And it's fun. It's absolutely fun, especially when you're going around different places around the US and around the world. People love it when you have the ball with you. And this picture was in Scotland. Do you remember where this was?
No, that was in Ireland. Edinburgh.
Yeah, Edinburgh. No. This one is the Isle of Skye, I think, in Scotland. So another place that we just take the ball with us everywhere. Talk about Argentina.
So my junior year of high school, I went with the ODP region team to Argentina to play against some professional women's teams down there. And this is still probably my favorite soccer experience, if not one of my top ones. And I think it was phenomenal because it's a totally different culture surrounding the game. Everybody plays soccer. You see people playing in the street. And I remember one time getting into a cab and telling the guy that I wanted him to take us to one of the professional stadiums. And he said, at first he said, no, I can't take you there because I like the other team. So in Buenos Aires, the biggest, the main city in Argentina, they have 3 big pro teams. And if you're a fan of one of them, it means you absolutely hate the other 2 teams. And this cab driver was refusing to take us to one of the stadiums because it was his rival. We eventually got there, but I just thought it was so cool seeing how big of a soccer culture they have in South America.
I also thought one of the interesting thing was when these are U17 players. This is a U17 team. They went and they were playing against full pro women's teams, and they didn't really take them that seriously, meaning the pro teams didn't take the girls, these young girls, that seriously. Well, guess what? U.S. women's soccer is a powerhouse. So when they went there, they played the first pro team. They didn't even put their starters in. Our girls went up 3-0 in very short period of time. They scrambled. They put all their starters in, and I think it ended like a 6-1 game.
Yeah.
And the rest of the time, they played 2 other teams. They got a lot more serious. And the next game, I think, was like a 3-1 you won. And the last was the best team in the entire country, and they tied them 2-2. Anyway, as an American, I'm just super proud of that the side of our. Yes, you got a question?
Yeah, we have a question from Bella. I believe Bella's in Delaware.
Yeah. She
said, how long would you say you should practice per day? And I'm assuming, Bella, you mean on your own.
Yes. So that is actually the next topic. So let's cut to that right now. And we're going to go back to us speaking here. So the message of that was Cam started late. She spent a lot of time training on her own and was able to climb at a very high level. And there's other things we're going to share with you. One was a national camp in the U.S., which is they only invited 19 players in the country to that. The point is you can make up a lot of ground by training on your own. That's the message there. And you can do it in a small space in your basement, your backyard. All right. So Bella is how old?
I don't know how old Bella is.
Okay. So it definitely depends on how old you are, but I'm going to have Cameron share some research we did on how many hours you need to train to get what we call a threshold amount of skill improvement, which means if you train less than this, it's kind of hard to get much of a skill improvement at all. If you train more than this, you get a lot of improvement. So we did this research on 6 teams last fall. So why don't you talk about what you found?
Right. So we found that of the players that participated in this project, there was basically a line dividing the bottom few and the rest above. And at that line was players training about an hour and a half a week. So they were training overall 30 hours for the 20-week program. So that comes out to it's just 30 minutes times 3 sessions every week. Anybody who fell below that line dropped off. They didn't stay involved in the program. They didn't complete all of the assessments and the training that they were supposed to. They just kind of fizzled out at some point. But everyone above that line, for the most part, really stuck with it, and they did see skill improvement.
All right. So there's kind of 3 levels. One is we want you to at a threshold. Unless you're super, super young. When I mean super young, 7, 8, 9 years old, at three times 30 minutes each. The kind of the optimal or the mid-range, which is what I call the zone where they really get a lot of benefit, is 3 times 3 hours a week. Or the average Captain Elite player, if you look at all of the kids that are training with us around the world, the US and Europe mostly, a little bit in Africa, they train on average 4 times a week for 45 minutes. That's 3 hours a week. So either 3 1-hour sessions or 4 45-minute sessions. So, and then above that, the elite who stick with it, these are the kids that climb to the tops of their clubs, are about 5 sessions at 60 minutes a week. Now that's a lot for a lot of kids. And we're not suggesting you go out and do that because it's a huge commitment, but we are saying there's a bare minimum, and then there's kind of a sweet spot in the middle. And then there's an elite, which is a very big commitment. You want to climb to the top. You want to be the best you can be. You want to play elite collegiately. So there are 2 questions that I want to help answer for you guys on how to start. The first one is you need to understand if you want to train independently. So if you want to train independently, that is training entirely on your own. We have 6 or 7 different programs that are totally independent. You sign up. The program walks you through how to set goals, how to create a schedule, and then you follow your program. It's your program, your goals, your schedule. Nobody's kind of looking over your shoulder and saying, have you done it? Have you done it? Have you done it? So if you like to be totally independent, your schedule, your goals, your way, and if you miss a session, that's okay. Nobody's watching. That's our independent programs. And those are programs called Raptor. And I'll walk through some of those in a moment. Raptor and Speed of Play Kills, and then Junior Strivers for the really young players. The other one is team-based. So these are kids that like to be a part of a group. They want to, whether it's their own full team, which we are now training a club in Maryland. Most of the teams on the girls' side are following our programs. So you can either be a part of a team or you can be a part of a group, and you sign up to be on one of those groups. A group, for example, might be 10 players. They're all interested in the same topic, but they set goals together. You measure, you log how many hours you put in, and you measure how your skills are improving, and that gets posted. That's very inspirational for some kids. They love being measured. They love being part of team. They love the discussions back and forth. Another question?
The coach from Maryland
wants
to know, should players concentrate on multiple exercises in 45 minutes or just a few within that 45 minutes?
That's a great question. So if you look at this, one of our research people that we have followed and do a lot of work with is a guy by the name of Anders Ericsson. He wrote a wonderful book called Peak. Strongly recommend at least the parents and the coaches to read it. And his findings are that if you only have a half an hour, don't work on multiple skills. If you have, so to answer that question directly, if you have 45 minutes, I'd work on 2 skills. I wouldn't work on 10 different exercises because your mind and your body don't learn that way. So you want to have more concentrated time on fewer skills. Now, what you can do is the next day you can pick 1 or 2 other skills with the same 45 minutes. But don't make the mistake. Let's say you have 4 sessions a week, all 45 minutes. Don't make the mistake of saying, I have 10 exercises, so I'm going to do roughly 4 minutes each one on every single day. It's not as effective as if you do much more time on a Monday on 2 or 3 of them, and then take the next 2 or 3 on a Tuesday, to the next 2 or 3 on a Thursday. It's much more effective for your development, and this is proven to be true. So much more effective. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yes. Lily from Greensboro, I believe, wants to know how much Cam trains every day per week.
Oh, this is crazy.
You want to know now? You asked for it. Okay.
Right.
Well, in season, it's a little different. I'm in the off season right now. So technically, just tech work, I train probably at least 12 to 13 hours a week on technical. And I also do a lot of physical work. So that comes out to I usually do doubles of technical sessions every day.
Yeah. So what Cam is trying to do is to play at the highest possible level. You know, she's also much older than basically all the players on this team, on this call. So she wants to play at the highest possible level. She's fully developed in terms of what she wants, where she wants to play, what level she wants to play. So she's highly committed. Now, I will tell you, here's a rule of thumb. And again, I'm not recommending this for most players. There's a rule of thumb of the way they do it in Europe. And it's a rule of thumb of the way the elite players do it in the US. Let's say you train about 10 hours a week with your team. What they do in Europe is they say they want to get you to 20 hours a week on the ball, whether that's training with your team or on your own. So I'm not suggesting that's the right answer because it's a huge commitment. It's a lifestyle change. I am suggesting there is a minimum. And if you can do the minimum, which is 3 30-minute sessions and be consistent, don't miss training, be very consistent, you'll see results. If you can do the mid-range, which is 3 hours, 3 1-hour sessions, 4 45-minute sessions, and if you can do the elite, which is 5 60-minute sessions, you notice none of those are 10-hour sessions. None of those are 10 hours a week. The best absolute world beaters, that's what they train. All right, so you'll see, you guys have seen some videos from players like, we have a player in Europe, Annika. If you guys have seen, if you came to the Bash, you saw her train. She trains on 3 teams, U17 World Cup team. She trains on a U19 club team, and she trains with a full pro team. She's getting about a total of 20 hours a week in. Again, not suggesting that for anybody on this call. I just want you to be educated on it so you understand kind of where it all works out. Okay. Any other questions?
Yes, we have another coach from Maryland wants to know, when you do your training at home, should you concentrate on on your weaknesses? So you're training at home, should you be focusing on your weaknesses?
Can I take that one?
Yeah, go ahead.
I like this question. Yes is the easy answer, but also you should try to perfect your strengths because as a player, you'll be most effective if you are really, really good at 1 or 2 things, but you also want to be good enough at everything else. So for example, and this is why I train so much, because my thing is the technical side of the game. I want to be phenomenal in all technical aspects of the game, whereas there are other aspects of the game that I'm not as strong in. So yes, train on your weaknesses so that they are good enough to get you to the level you want to be at, but also train hard on your strengths because you'll be more motivated to do that since it's fun. It's something you're good at, but also it's very important as a player to be phenomenal in 1 or 2 things.
Yeah, let me add a comment to that. We had at the Bash, we had 4 pro players that were on a talk. So any of you guys who remember this, we had Brant Bronico, we had Austin Deleuze, we had Annika from Finland, and we had Chris Keating, who's my nephew. And his response to this question was similar, but he gave a reason why. He said that you have to be good to become a really top player. You have to be good at everything because your opponents will find your weakness and they'll play to your weakness and they'll just pick you apart. If they know you're only right-footed, they're going to take to the ball always to your left. If they know you're not good with back to pressure, they're going to make you back to pressure all the time. If they know you're bad at striking from the outside, they're going to push you to the outside all the time. So that's why as a young player, we want you to work on the fundamentals. There's a saying, and I love it, and I hope it resonates with you guys. It's called excellence is mundane. Somebody post, what do I mean by excellence is mundane? Excellence is mundane. This is a great lesson for every player out there. Okay, so I would like to. Yeah, you got more questions?
Yeah. Okay, so Cassidy from Maryland wants to know, how does Cameron, I call her Cameron. How does Cameron mentally prepare for games?
Great question.
Yeah, I like this one too. I'm a huge fan of music. I always listen to music before games and when I train. So any song that puts me in a really good, happy mood. Outside of that, I also have a mantra, which is a short one-liner that I'll say to myself before games that kind of clicks me into the right mental state. And I can also say it to myself during games if I feel like I'm kind of getting off track. And then the only other thing I would say is get a really, really good warm-up. Not only do you want to be getting a lot of touches on the ball, but you also want to get your heart rate up so your body isn't surprised when it starts playing on the field.
Yeah, the warm up is a really good point. Most players maybe they go through the motions of the warm up. You want to break a sweat a little bit, but I would take that direction from your coach. Another question?
Yes. Can you explain what mantra is to some of the younger players who may not understand that?
Sure. Yeah. So a mantra is a sentence or a word that means something important to you. So, and by that I mean, it's kind of like, if it's a word, it's like a trigger word that if you feel like you're kind of slipping out of the mental state that you want to be in a game, you say that word to kind of pull yourself back in. So when in high school, when I was playing, my word was crush, because a lot of the times I had a hard time being being aggressive enough to win the ball. So I would tell myself crush, like go. That means go after the ball, get it. Every ball within a 10-yard radius is my ball. So I would say that to myself.
So we actually, there's a little process to create your own mantra, and it is in most of the team-based training. There is a kind of a cheat sheet on how to do that. So if you look at setting up, you look at the setups, there are several documents on the, I believe it's on the setting up your 7-day plan page. So if you go to the team-based training, week 1, and it's called tools. There is a document in there that says how to create a mantra and what a mantra is. And it's really, really powerful. You want to share yours? One of yours?
Yeah, I think somebody asked mine, and if I ever meet you in person, I'll tell you, but it's super personal and I've never actually said it out loud to a group. So.
All right. That's fair. Fair. I like it. All right. Fair. Okay. Any other questions? Because I want to show them what the difference between an independent program and
everybody wants to know Kim's mantra.
No. All right. All right. So we'll
do. Rather hear her. Let's hear the Australian accent again.
Australia. That was pretty bad.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions?
They're coming through so quick. What's your mantra? What's your mantra?
Yeah, it's funny. Okay. All right. So let me take a moment here and show you. Most of you guys know what the independent training looks like. You can go on our website and you can look at it and see some videos of what it looks like. But very few people know what the team-based training looks like. How do we measure? How do we display the results? So I'm going to share with you, because most of the players on are from the Bash, which we've talked to you guys about this, or the team project in the fall, or the Celtic project. So we're going to take a quick moment here, and I'm going to screen share.
Can I ask a quick question while you're looking
please do.
Coach Doug wants to know, what's the difference between playing to compete and playing to win?
I love this question.
Which one is healthier and is based more on learning and growing?
Yeah, go ahead. Go for it. Yep.
That's a really good question, first of all. In my opinion, the difference between playing to compete and playing to win is kind of like playing not to lose. So it's playing for a result. Playing to compete is getting out there and you're focusing on improving and working hard for your team and for yourself. I would say that playing to compete is a lot healthier because it's focusing on things you can control, which is really important. Because take, for example, focusing on your striking technique versus focusing on scoring. There are so many factors in scoring a goal that don't have to do with you, whether it's like the weather, the goalkeeper, if a defender steps in the way, but you can always control how you strike a ball yourself, given that you've practiced and everything like that. So that's the difference between trying to win versus trying to compete. You can control what's inside of you, your competitive fire, but you'll never be able to win a game solely by yourself.
Yeah. And you just mentioned something important, competitive fire, that's within you. So for example, Cam's comment about crush, her trigger word is crush. That's a competitive, kind of a very emotional word, that ball is mine. I'm going to get that ball. Anything within a certain distance of me is my ball. I'm going for that. That's a competitive fury or a competitive fire trait. Now, some players will hold themselves back and say, well, that ball is not mine. I'm not going to go for it. You want to be the competitive player. You want to be there for your teammates because you want to help them raise their level too. Any other questions?
Yeah, Doug says, thanks. Good coming from Kim.
Yep.
And Robert from Virginia wants to know, how do you change yourself to comprehend a big versus a little game?
I like answer. Do you mind if I?
Yeah, you can go ahead. I want to make sure, Robert,
like
while Cameron's starting, make sure we understand what your question is. Can you just elaborate on that? But go ahead and start with what you think.
I feel like you're saying, how do you change your mindset? And I'll give you an easy solution. You don't. Every game's a big game. You never go into a game thinking this is going to be a walk in the park. I'm going to take it easy. Because the way that I think about it, my freshman year in college, I got mono. And I didn't know if I was going to play at all that season. I ended up not being able to play for 8 months. So it puts into perspective that any game could be your last one. So you never want to go into a game thinking, oh, this is
not important.
Exactly, because it is. It means something. It can always mean something to you, whether it means something in the broad scheme of things. So take every game, every practice seriously and get a lot out of it, because you never know when your last one is going to be.
I'll add one thing to that, and that is Anders Ericsson has a great quote that says, if you don't train and play outside of your comfort zone, you will not get better. You will not. So it doesn't matter how many hours you put in, you have to learn to push yourself outside of your comfort zone. And outside of your comfort zone for a lot of people is being very competitive, because you're going to get criticized. And here's what's going to happen. If you're a competitive player and you're a young player, there are going to be parents and coaches and teammates that are going to criticize you. Why are you going so hard all the time? Well, I'm going so hard because I want to get better and I want my team to get better. And I respect you as a player. That's tough. But I'm telling you what, if you do that long term, everybody gets better because of that. Would you agree?
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yep.
Yeah.
Other questions?
That's a really
Lily
good
from
question.
Greensboro wants to know, how do you recover after a bad game?
That's great, Kim. Go for it.
Well, I will be honest with you. I was not always very good at this. I had the decency to save my tears for the car after hard games instead of doing it in front of other people. But as I got older, I learned that although this kind of goes counter to my last point of taking every game seriously, it also is just a game. You have to remember that your self-worth and who you are as a person, it isn't tied to how you do in a soccer game in the broad scheme of things. So it helped me at least to remember that I'm supposed to be having fun. And and the moment that it's not fun anymore, there's something wrong. So if you're having fun, if you're improving, if you're competing, then you can rest assured that you did everything you could. And even if you don't get the result, or even if you take a bad touch, you always have the next practice and game to make up for that. So completely different than my last point, but it's important to be able to recognize when you need to take things really seriously and when you need to take a step back and recognize that it's a game.
Yeah, I think what's important here is to control what you can control. That's a very key message for you guys. You can control your effort. You can control your attitude. You can control your competitiveness. And those are things you can practice every single time you train, every single time you play. All right, you can't control the outcomes. You can try, but you really can't. There's too many variables you'd have to control. It's a really good point. Any other questions?
Doug Oppenheimer recommends a book called Brett Ledbetter, What Drives Winning.
Yeah, this is a great book. It's also, there's some, you can go to his website, Brett Ledbetter, What Drives Winning. It's a wonderful book. It's also a website that you can look up on interviews that he has done on some very famous people on their perspective on what drives a winning culture, which is wonderful. All right. And there's another one. I like that list of what you can control.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
That's
great. Yep.
That's great.
All right, let me give you one other. I got a great comment from a coach. I got a great question from a coach last week on how do you deal with nerves? How do you deal with nerves going into a game? Because everybody gets nervous.
Yeah.
And whether it's a big game or small game, something happens and you kind of get tripped up. So I have several techniques, but here's my favorite: gratitude, being super grateful, and also being professional. So let me tell you how this works. So on gratitude, before you walk on the field, what I teach the teams that I train, I have them stand up individually at the edge of the turf. And before they step on the field, I want them to say to themselves what they are grateful for being there that day. That might be, I'm grateful to play in this game. That might be, I'm grateful that my grandpa and grandpa are here with me. That may be, I'm grateful my parents are so supportive. It could be 100 different things. The important thing is to be grateful because it relaxes you. It focuses you on things outside of you, not your nerves. Okay, that's really important. The second thing is look like a soccer player. Soccer players that show up and look all buttoned up, and they put their bags down very neatly, stack them side by side. Teams that look like that, they look special. In fact, they have a power to them. Your opponents look and say, wow. Let me tell you a story. This is way back when I started coaching players. They were 74s. So my first team, 1974, that's when they were born. So I would teach them to walk 2 by 2. Everybody had their backpack on the same side. They walked to the field perfectly. They all put their bags down in the same row, and they started working. They started warming up in a choreograph, which means kind of a rehearsed dance. And everybody looked. The opponents all looked at them and were like, oh my gosh, these guys look like pros. And it makes you feel great inside. So being grateful to be there, being grateful for your parents, being grateful for your team, your club, your coach, your trainers, your friends, and then looking like a pro makes you feel just wonderful.
Yep.
Any other questions? I do want to take a quick minute to show them the all right. So if you keep on asking questions, because we're going to be running out of time here. This is great, by the way. We went a little longer than I expected, but I think it's wonderful discussion. So, all right. So you're going to see here you're going to see now the sign-in page for our for our independent training programs. Yes, it does. The sign-in page for our independent training program. This is for the kids that are already in it, but I want to take you to one that is a team-based program, which a lot of the kids are on right now. This is the club that is working with us in Maryland, which I'm just thrilled with how they are doing. This is a wonderful, and I call it an experiment, but they are training together on a particular set of skills. And what you'll see here is this is their dashboard. So we share with them how we share some videos once a week on something inspirational. We share videos on some players that are doing extraordinary things. But here's what's really cool down here. You can see down here kind of how the team is doing on are they meeting their training hours. And then even further down here, you can see, okay, here are the hardest workers. So I told you before about training 8-10 hours a week. I'm not recommending that, but you have players here. Look at this. We have a player here, a 2002 player that's training 8 hours a week. You have players the top players are between about 3 hours and 8 hours. All those players are in that kind of zone of extraordinary skill improvement and mindset confidence improvement. So what happens is we post this. This is a team-based project, and we're going to launch a series of team-based projects shorter than this one. This one is a much more ambitious project, but we're going to shorten them down a little bit. But I do want to show you what the skill scoreboard looks like. You'll see down here, these are top skills. So we have them measure themselves. And we have the coach validate what they're doing, and then it posts live what their results are by skill. So if you like this kind of a training environment where you are with a team, a training team, or a training group that all has the same goal in mind, that we want to get better at this particular skill, you're feeding off of each other. and you're inspiring each other to train more, then our team-based projects are what you want to do. So let me also show you what we do in the team-based projects. You can see over here, this ask and post is a way for players to post questions, get answers, and engage each other and engage us on training advice. And there's hundreds and hundreds of posts here. Some of them include videos and so on. So just a great way of engaging. Okay, so let me go back to here and stop sharing and then bring you guys back up.
John wants to know, can you sign up for team-based training as an individual?
You can in our spring training, which we're going to kick off roughly about mid-February. We're going to open this up. We're developing the ability right now for people to sign up as one player, as a duo, and you're going to love this, you Fortnite crazy players out there. One duo, squad, or a team, and you just choose the topic. And then you get assigned to a team. And what's cool about teams, what I love about teams is they have a manager. So for example, I will say the first name, not the last name, but we have a wonderful team manager. Her name is Mill, who has a team of 12 to 14 players from all over that are male and female that are trained together. And their ages are probably about 3 or 4 year age difference. But what I love about it is she's helping them get organized and helping them make sure that they record their hours, helping them make sure they understand the difference between not training and training. So that's one of the reasons why I like these team-based projects. Any other questions on team-based?
Catherine said that after the bash, Emily felt like she used her training right away the next weekend. I'd be interested to know, what exactly did she get from the bash? What was she able to utilize the most?
So that's, yeah. So, yep, Kathy, would love to hear anybody who's on from the bash that has some stories they can tell on how they, what skills they use. I will tell you one story, and I will not name the player. We encourage creativity. We want the kids to try things and fall flat on their face and fail and get up laughing and try it again. All right. That is a trait and a hallmark of someone who becomes a great player. There are some people who don't like that, don't want you to keep trying things over and over again. And there was one I heard from a parent talking about that actually a coach said that, why are you a ball hog all the time? And rather than saying, I love your creativity, however, right now we need to work on this kind of a possession game. So I want to tell everybody out there, I want you to try things. I want you sometimes to be a ball hog. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, I'll tell you, there's a quick quote I want to tell you. If you ask the best coaches, the top level programs, what they look for in the best program, from the best kids, the best recruits, they're going to say somebody who can make an individual major impact. And how do they do that? They beat players. They strike the ball well. They score goals. Those are highly individual players, creative players, or a center back who controls with their voice of a sergeant how to control everything. Some of those players get a lot of criticism, but don't feel like it is personal, but don't stop doing those wonderful things. What do you think, Cam?
Yeah, I mean, I have a story from high school where a girl on my team was a center forward, and she got picked up by one of the youth national teams in the U.S. because they came to one of our games and saw her beat 3 players and score a goal. A little known fact that most people don't remember is every other time she touched the ball that game, she lost it. But it was that one play that they saw and they were like, wow, this girl has potential. Yeah. So a lot of coaches in club and in your team coaches will tell you not to do stuff like that because they want to win the game. They want the team to do well. But if you want to be looked at by coaches for college, if you want to get better as a player, whatever your goal is, you have to be taking risks like that because those risks are the only thing that have big rewards. Yep. And in terms of development, but also recruiting.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is the way to start, if you have never trained independently before, I'm going to post a couple links here. Give me a second to pull up some links. And I'm going to post a link on, here it is. I'm going to post a link on how to get started. In every case, what I want you to do is start with an assessment. Okay, so if you're independent, you want to start with an assessment. So give me a second here. This is the assessment right there. Okay, so we'll describe what that is. And then the second thing is, if you are interested, it sounded like several of you guys were interested in this team-based project, do an RSVP, which means you're not enrolling, but you're saying, I'm interested in a team-based project and I'm interested in this technical topic. But I would recommend you do this in 2 steps. One is do the free assessment, because it will come back with a really cool professional report kind of ranking your skills, and it's going to tell you where your weaknesses are and where your strengths are and what you need to develop next. So this next link that I'm sending right now is the RSVP for the team-based project this spring. Okay, I got room for just one more quick. We went really long on this one, Cam. Cam's training got canceled tonight. So any other questions? Because we're going to sign off here. Great dialogue, by the way. Really great questions from Maryland, from Virginia, from North Carolina, South Carolina. Really good stuff.
Yeah, definitely makes it more enjoyable for us too if you ask questions.
Yep. Any other questions? I think we're good then. All right, guys. Is one more?
Talk about the promo code for 10% off training kits.
Oh, yes. So if you do that assessment, you'll love this. This is Miss Maria just gave you 10% off any of our independent training kits. So if you do an assessment, at the bottom, there's a link at the bottom of the assessment, which you will get back automatically by email. All right, it's a nice professional report on your goals, your mindset, and where your strengths and weaknesses are. Right at the bottom, there's a little link that you can click on to give us a little bit of feedback. What did you think about the assessment? At the end of that assessment is a cool little coupon, which will save you 10%. And 10% off of some of these kits is $25. So the least expensive one is about $100. The most expensive one is about $229. Let me tell you very briefly, the independent training kits fall into a couple different categories. One is dribbling. Raptor 360 is our dribbling program, and we patterned that after doing research on Leo Messi. We love close control dribbling, being able to control the ball with all surfaces of your foot in 360 degrees. The other one, which is very advanced, is speed of play kills, and that's all about the sequence and the technique of playing faster. Okay, that's more of, I would not recommend people start there. I would recommend they follow the training assessment, because it will say what age you are, what level you are today, where are your gaps, and then it'll tell you what to do. All right, and there are several other programs, but all of that is available on the website. The only one that is not is our team-based projects. So if you're interested, RSVP. All right, I think we're set. That was a lot of fun. I will work on my my Australian accent.
Yes, till next time.
All right.